I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Good afternoon and welcome to Camnet TV Midday News Headlines. Street adult dies of suspected sodomy injuries. Judicial Complaints Commission (JCC) asks court to dismiss DPP'S application. Details coming through after this commercial.
Imagine if CDF was corruption and mismanagement free. Imagine the benefits you and your community could enjoy. More schools, more clinics, better infrastructure, education and employment opportunities. You can take part in ensuring this happens by ensuring you report all suspected corruption and mismanagement cases to the Anti-Corruption Commission by dialing 5980 toll-free and the Office of the Auditor General by dialing 5566 toll-free on MTN and Zamtel. For more information, visit our website on www.acszambia.org/CDF. Remember, CDF is your money. Take an active part on how it is used and managed. This message is brought to you by the Alliance for Community Action.
And now the media news in detail. Female members of parliament from various constituencies across the country have cited broken family bonds, alcohol abuse, and deteriorating discipline among parents as one of the major contributors to the continuous occurrences of teenage pregnancies across the country. Speaking during a meeting organized by Plan International Zambia for female members of parliament, Monday, Mwandi constituency member of parliament, Siveso Sefula, adds that there is need to revamp HIV and AIDS sensitization in schools and other places amidst reports of teenage pregnancies as well as sodomy cases.
2022 data from the United Nations Population Fund UNFPA shows that nearly 30% of adolescent girls in Zambia become pregnant by the age of 18, painting a gloomy picture on the situation of teenage pregnancies in the country. This often leads to their future being dim, as their return to school is not always guaranteed after having a child, as many feel demotivated. Boys are also now becoming a concern, as their well-being is not guaranteed in view of the sodomy incidences that have been recorded in the country of recent. Female members of parliament who convened to brainstorm on these challenges on Monday, in a meeting put together by Plan International Zambia, have made various suggestions on how these vices can be reduced. Key among the speakers was Mwandi constituency member of parliament Siveso Sefula, who says sensitization on HIV/AIDS also needs to be revamped.
It was very disheartening to learn that 7 out of 10 children between the ages of 14 and 24 are getting infected. So as we are talking about teenage pregnancies, we need to make sure that we put a full circle combat to make sure that we are combating the teenage pregnancies, we are combating the sodomy that is happening around the boy child, and we are also providing them with SRHR issues so that gap is bridged.
However, we find that our children have got less information, hence they cannot make decisions on their own. And when you leave children even at your home right now, and they can allow anyone to come in and they can go out, it means that we still have a problem. And for sure, as long as our children can't know when they'll use a condom and when they should use it, then we have a serious problem.
You could also deliberately, expand your engagement to capture parents, where deliberately skills on parenting are also shared.
Meanwhile, Plan International Zambia representatives add that parents need to normalize discussing reproductive education with their children.
That conversation can only happen when we sit outside that box that we've called our culture of not talking to young people and begin to speak to young people. We have a lot of mental issues around the young people that go unnoticed because we are providing. Because I've taken you to school, I've taken you to Banana, so go. I've paid, is it 42,000 what? Yours is to go and learn. But I'm not mentally stable to sit away from everybody else I call family. So how do I then bridge that gap? I find solace on the internet.
We are looking at how do we ensure that young people, especially girls, have access to services, are able to demand for services, commodities are available, also have information, the right information, to ensure that they make the right choices around pregnancy, around marriage. So how do we ensure that really there's a lot of access to the correct information in that space?
The emphasis from the stakeholders is that both boys and girls should be kept safe and well educated on the dangers of illicit sexual activities. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Police officers at Soweto Police Post in Lusaka have picked up a body of 33-year-old street adult with multiple injuries on his anus allegedly caused by repeated sodomy. The body of the deceased, who has been identified as Kalale, is lying in the University Teaching Hospital after it was picked up by police officers on Friday, September 16, 2022.
It all started like child's play. At first, it was only whispered in the corridors of Zambian prisons. People who dread going to prison for fear that hardcore criminals are in the tendency of sodomizing fellow inmates. Then there was that audio recording of a crying mother painfully narrating that her children had been repeatedly sodomized. There was also the recent report of 5 pupils of Islamic Education Trust of Zambia who were alleged to have been sodomized by 3 older pupils that led to their arrest. More closer to home, on Friday last week, police officers deposited a body of a street kid only identified as Kalale, who is said to also have been a wheelbarrow pusher at Soweto Market in Lusaka. For the purpose of identification, the face of the victim has been shown, for he had no fixed abode. The corridors of UTH mortuary are eerily quiet and the stench of death is unmistakable. The attendant wheeled the body on the gurney for viewing. What has shocked medical personnel at Zambia's biggest referral hospital was the extensively damaged state of the victim's fecal passage. They could only conclude one thing: Kalale was a victim of sodomy abuse, obviously by his fellow street kids. UTH Public Relations Manager Natalie Mashkolo cannot come to terms with the sad development, as she labors to explain.
We have a body of a 32-year-old male. He goes by the name of Kalale, and he was brought in by police from Soweto. And he appears to be a victim of being sodomized over a long period of time. Because when he came and when he was examined, his backside it's just unbelievable what has happened to it. It's kind of open, and it just shows us that something was happening to him over a long period of time. And you can just see he was not also in good health, and he's from the street, so we don't know where his relatives are, and we're appealing to people who are missing a person by the name of Kalale that his body is in the UTH mortuary.
Sodomy is described as a natural offense, which is contrary to Section 155 of the Penal Code, Act Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. Reports of sodomy and homosexuality is taking root in Zambia, a country that has been declared a Christian nation. Strange but true. Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
Judicial Complaints Commission JCC has submitted before the Lusaka High Court that the application by the suspended Director of Public Prosecution, Lillian Suyuni, to commence judicial review proceedings against the state over President Hakainde Hichilema's refusal to relinquish her oath of silence has been overtaken by event following her suspension by the President, who acted upon recommendation given to him by the Commission.
Arguments have advanced before the Lusaka High Court over the application made by the suspended Director of Public Prosecution, Lillian Suyuni, to commence judicial review proceedings against the state over President Hakainde Hichilema's refusal to relinquish her oath of silence, with the Judicial Complaints Commission submitting before court that the application by Ms. Suyuni has been overtaken by event. In this case, Ms. Suyuni has cited the Attorney General and commenced judicial review proceedings against the state over the heads of state refusal to relinquish her oath of silence in order for her to answer to allegations of unethical misconduct before the Judicial Complaints Commission. She alleges that the President failed to understand the context of the oath of office made pursuant to Section 11
of the Official Oath Act and the provision of Article 93(1) of the Constitution. She wants the court to declare unconstitutional and illegal the decision by the head of state to decline her request to waive off the oath of secrecy in relation to matters complained of by members of the public against her before the JCC. However, the Commission states that the application by Ms. Yoni for leave to commence judicial review proceedings and that the said leave should operate as a stay of the decision or the proceedings before the Commission has been overtaken by event, adding that the Commission already had complaints against her and already presented its recommendation report to the head of state upon acting on the same report on the 14th of September 2022, suspended her from the office of the Director of Public Prosecution. The court was hearing the submissions from both parties this afternoon, Monday, the 19th of September 2022.
For the DPP to commence judicial review proceedings. So the parties were ahead and the ruling has been reserved the 22nd September at 09 hours.
Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
A family of Lusaka's Lilanda Township residing near Lilanda Primary School has been left traumatized after a whirlwind blew off part of the roof to their house. Owner of the house, identified as Madam Bob, has told Camnet News that she was at church at the time of the incident and was only informed by the neighbors that a disaster had occurred and that she needed to get back home.
A family of Lusaka's Lilanda Township has been left traumatized after a roof to their house was blown off by a whirlwind in the early afternoons of Monday. Neighbor to the affected, identified as Jane, says she was outside cooking at the time of the incidents and narrates what transpired.
Kave complete. So na chisamuna kamona kava strong na wind yava strong filia. So fe na chisamuna paneba na mfafe bang filia. And then na chisamuna mutenge wa ima. Fe na chisamuna chita scream filia. Nambo kupepana the blood of Jesus filia. So na chisati na nawa na mosaba chiva pansi filia wa wambo kupundo. So fe na chisamuna monati.
Meanwhile, owner of the house, identified as Madam Bob, tells Camnet News that she was at church at the time of the incidents and was only called by the neighbor to rush back home as a disaster had struck.
Randa vene muchinyanja chika vuruvuru na ifimbuko mutenge na kebula manati ya kutoka so from the bishop na kucheshi na fine tuwasanga hapa mkwa disaster
Okay. The neighbors have since joined in calling on the relevant authorities to come and help the affected family and assess the level of damage to the house to see if it is fit for the family to continue to live in.
On behalf of the family, to appeal to the government and the area MP and the area councillor to come and see and assess the damage. Maybe they can hand the hand of help to the family, to the affected family. Okay. Otherwise, the damage is very huge.
It may come up and help us in one way or another, we would appreciate.
The family of 7 will now have to spend their night in a house that has part of its roof blown off. Prudence Chota reporting for Camnet TV News.
Well, that news item brings us to the end of Camnet TV Media News, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. Street adult dies of suspected sodomy injuries. Judicial Complaints Commission-JCC asks court to dismiss DPP's application. Thank you for watching. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Good afternoon.